Okay, so now just the last thing. Let's say we have these four numbers and we want to arrange them in descending order. So what do I mean by descending order? What I mean is put the largest first and then put the next largest and the next one and the next one and so on and so forth. So out of these four numbers, which one is the largest? Well, we can, the way that we're going to do is we're going to follow an algorithm. And what's the algorithm? The algorithm says, look at the most, and then I'll explain to you why the algorithm is correct. It says, look at the most significant digit. The most significant digit is, in this case, the thousands place. Okay? So here are the four numbers. The first number has 5 in the thousands place, then 5 again in the thousands place, then 4, and then 4. Okay? Now please note, if you have a number, so let's compare two numbers. There's a number which has 5 in the thousands place, and then I don't know what else goes in here. And here's a number which has 4 in the thousands place, and I don't know what goes in here. So let's think about how small can this number get. Well, this number, the first number, the smallest that it can get is, the smallest it can be is 5,000. That's because it has 5,000s, it has no hundreds, no tens, and no ones. That's the smallest it can get. Well, let's think about how large can the second number get. This is the second number, so how large can it get? Well, the best that it can get to is, it can put a 9 hundreds, 9 tens, and 9 ones. Okay? But we already know that 4,999 is less than 5,000. Okay? Because 4,999 plus 1 is 5,000. So we know this number is less than this number. So what that means is that these fives, so these two numbers are bigger than these two numbers, right? Because they start with a 5 and they can't be smaller than 5,000, whereas the two numbers that start with a 4 can't be bigger than 4,999. So now we already know that the largest number has to be one of these two numbers, right? So it's either 5,094 or 5,473. So now we have to think about which out of these numbers is the largest number. So now let's start to think about them, okay? So now we know that they have the same, so let me write down the numbers again, which is 5,094 and 5,473. Now please note that the same number of thousands, so now let me compare the hundreds place. If I compare the hundreds place, there are no hundreds in the top one, but there are 4 hundreds in the bottom one. So let's say I have two numbers that I don't know. So I know this is 5,000 and I don't know what else. Let me write it in white. So let's see, I have 5,000. So let's write down, this is 5,000 and I don't know what exists. And this is 5,400 and I don't know what the other two numbers are. Okay, so now let's think about it. How large can the 5,4 number be? Sorry, how small can the 5,4 number be? Well, the smallest that it can be is there'll be no 0, there are no 10s and no 1s. But how large can the 50 number be? Well, the largest that the 50 number can be is, I can put two 9s over here. And clearly, 5,400 is bigger than 5,099. So what that means is that the number 5,473 is larger than 5,094. So what we're going to do is going to write down 5,493 first. That's the first number. Now then the second number has to be 5,094. That's the second number. And now what about the third number? Well, the third number, again, if we do the same algorithm, you can see that I have 4,982, 4,973. So now they have the the same, both of these numbers have the same number in the hundreds place, so that doesn't help us. But now this number has 8 in the tens place, whereas this number has 7 in the ones place. So the number with the 7 in the ones place cannot be larger than 79, and the number with 8 in the tens place cannot be less than 80. And 79 will always be less than 80, so which means that the next largest number has to be 4,982, and the smallest number is going to be 4,973. So what we're really doing is that if we have two numbers like maybe 5,282 and maybe 5,279, what we do is we start comparing the most significant digit. If they are the same, we move on. Then we compare the next most significant digit. If it's the same, we move on. Then we look at the next most significant digit. Since 8 is bigger than 7, we declare that 5,282 is bigger than 5,279, and the reason is because anything with 5 to 8 and you don't know what it is, and if you compare anything with 5 to 7, well, the largest that this can be is 9 and the smallest that this can be is 0, and clearly this number 5280 is larger than 5279, so we actually do not need to look at this number. This is not important. We can already decide based on 8 and 7 that this number is larger than the other number. Okay.